What happens when somebody with no running background dares to dream beyond what's realistic? What about if you get somebody with no limiting beliefs who wants to improve as much as he possibly can in a 6-month period? What if I told you that in just 6 months, a man who had ran 4 hours and 28 minutes for the marathon transformed himself into a really serious marathon runner? This is not a story about talent. This is a story about mindset. This is the story of Raphael. Raphael came to me in the middle of November last year. He's a musician, a creative, full of energy, full of positivity, and most important for this task, full of ambition. And I'll read you the email that he sent me before we spoke on the discovery call. I'm 49 years old, French guy living in Finland for the past 6 years. I'm very excited about running, and it's currently my #1 focus. I only started to run last year. I've been very consistent and committed. I ran 1,000 kilometers in my first year and 1,300 kilometers in my second year. I've been thrilled to see my progress. I must say that it was thanks to your sub 3 hour marathon is possible for any man video. You gave me confidence I could go for what really excites me. Otherwise, I would have just tried to break sub 2 hours for the half marathon. He came to me and said, I want to run a 2-hour 48 marathon. And he'd run in September, a marathon in 4 hours and 28 minutes. So he doesn't want to go sub 4. He doesn't want to go sub 3:30. He wants to take 100 minutes off his PB marathon time. And so at that point, I cannot not be excited about the challenge and about that level of excitement and ambition. And I asked him where that number came from. Why 2:48? I kind of knew, but I wanted to know what he thought. And he said, I've been watching your videos, and what he most appreciated was chasing your potential and not aiming for round numbers. Now that's important. Please remember that for the rest of the video. He knew he could run a kilometer in 4 minutes. And he took what I'd said literally to know that it's only a matter of training before you can run that pace for the entire marathon. And that's what he wanted to do. And just to prove that this is no joke, no sandbagging, no cherry picking somebody who's got massive potential, one of the first interval sessions that we did was 6 times 4 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. Great session that I talk about a lot on the channel. His pace average for that session was 4 minutes and 3 seconds per kilometer. And when we started working together, it's fair to say he was green. But his superpower was that he was open-minded and knew that there was a different way to do things, a better way to do things that would move him forward and unlock that next level for him being a completely different athlete. So every session, every run, every time he left the door to run had purpose. And that might have been optimizing an interval session. It was in the beginning. It was also, this is why we need to go so slow, to put so little effort in on recovery run day because of the bigger picture. We talked about what the specific sessions are doing in order to push him forward. And he just listened. He trusted the process 100% and he executed to a point where I don't think there was a single training session or a single run that he missed. And so 1 hour 40, 100 minutes, 4 hours and 28 marathon, to get to 2 hours and 48 marathon by Stockholm Marathon, 31st of May. So we need to look along the way, we need to build his confidence that he can sustain that pace that he's aiming at. Bear in mind, 6 times 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 3 seconds per kilometer, training to begin with and gradually just being disciplined and also having the patience to let the pace come to him. And so many runners, so many people are getting to the start line of marathons and they're nervous, they're anxious before because they've been doing long, slow distance runs in training and it's lacks specificity. And so naturally on the start line, of course they're nervous because how do they know they can execute the pace that they're trying to hold from start to finish? It's kind of a guesstimate. And with Raphael, the breakthrough for me really was exactly 5 weeks before, we did a half marathon, but we did it as part of a longer run, 31K run, 32K run. So he did some kilometers before, some kilometers afterwards, but the middle part, the half marathon, he stayed disciplined and he ran at 4:15 per kilometer. And he was able to run a huge PB for the half marathon in 1 hour and 29 and 22 seconds. But more important than that, he was able to run marathon pace plus 20%, marathon pace plus 10% in the kilometers before and after the marathon. So all of a sudden, you've got 31, 32 kilometers worth of volume, 20 miles relative to marathon pace. That builds a lot of confidence, but more important than that, he's able to get back training the very next day because it's not taken that much out of his body. So a massive PB, he could have gone way faster, but he knew that the A goal, the priority was Stockholm Marathon 5 weeks later, and he wants to continue training to milk even more out of his body to go faster on that day. Now the big one, Stockholm Marathon. Bear in mind, he's been training for this for 6 months, and we've had checkpoints along the way, but this is the big one. And he could have played it safe. If he would have played it safe and just gone for 3 hours, then perhaps that would have been a much easier race, it would have been easy on the mind. He wasn't thinking, he wasn't even in that mindset. He wasn't thinking it's hotter, it's hillier, all the different excuses and outs, as I mentioned early on in the week, none of that came into the equation. He has been training for 2 hours and 48. That's what he said he was going to do. That is what I trained to do. That's what he's going to do. Remember, this is not a man who plays it safe to aim for round numbers that are appealing to other people. And he went for it. And he gives me his live tracking. So I'm watching it, literally him moving around Stockholm. And he goes out quick. First 3K, 3:45 per kilometer. I run into my bedroom and tell Elena, he's gone out too quick. I run back to the tracking and I'm watching him kilometer by kilometer. Goes through 5K in 1948. That's a PB for 5K for him, by the way. Only by 1 second, but it's a PB and it's the first 5K of a marathon. He goes through 10K in 39:45. That's a PB by more than a minute for his 10K time. And that's in the first 10K of a marathon. 15K, I run back in the bedroom, he's back on track. Brilliant, he's brought it back, fantastic. He gets to halfway in 1 hour, 25 and 21 seconds. That's 4 minutes faster than he's ever run a half marathon before. But he starts to struggle. And at this point, I'm typing furiously because you can send messages these days to the runners. And I'm thinking he's getting these things on his watch. And we all know at this point how tough that gets. It's not just, okay, it's twice as hard. This is exponentially more difficult. You feel as if you're going backwards, but as you can see, he doesn't fall apart. And most of the time he's running 10 or 20% slower there. It's not the end of the world. And he crosses the finish line in 3 hours, 6 minutes and 58 seconds. So he's failed, right? He's failed by 18 minutes. And why am I even using this as an example when it's such a big failure? It's nearly 20 minutes failing. I couldn't be more proud of Raphael. He went for it. There was no doubt in his mind. He was going for it. And he made it to halfway on track. And then it gets, as I just said, exponentially harder. And he still had his hat in the ring. He still dug in. He still stuck to the plan and ran as fast as he possibly could to the end. That is the part that I'm most proud of. He went for it and he hung on, didn't fall apart. He got to the finish line, and this was his email afterwards. What an experience. It was something I'd been waiting for so long and invested so much in, and at the same time, I had no idea it would be so hard. Gratitude and releasing after a very hard effort. 3 hours later, and I feel good about it. I learned a lot. And then my favorite part is the marathon feels like a sacred mountain to me that you need to respect. He commuted to work on foot. He ran through the harshest winters you can imagine, especially as a French guy from warmer climates. Sometimes he'd run to work and then cycle back. Sometimes he knew that the plan wasn't perfect, but he did every single run. And he never made excuses. He made the training fit into his life and got it done. But if you've got the work ethic, the discipline, the dedication, the mentality, the ambition, and removing those limiting beliefs, which he's got in abundance, that's what separates runners who train and they move forward a little bit and runners who really move forward. Surely this is much more exciting to really go for it. And that's why I'll work for Raphael for as long as he'll have me. And what's next for Raphael? So surely you run 3:06 and the next goal must be you've got to correct that and you've got to run sub 3 or you've got to go for that 2:48. No, we've already talked about it, and he's capable of running sub 2:40, sub 2:35, much quicker than that 248 because we'll have more time. When you get a result like that, you can step back from it. Okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I do better next time? What can I improve? And then you insert that into every single area of your training. And you also have this fire lit inside of you that you know you're capable of 248. You executed it for half the distance. You just need to continue to do much more of the same of what you've been doing, improve that, take away the things that you did wrong, and go for it again. With a few little tweaks and changes, he'll run 235, 240. And this is a 50-year-old man now. And I know there's gonna be people in the comments that are, you've cherry-picked him, this is a genetic freak. I know when you see somebody do something in a 6-month period that you've been trying to do for 10 years, that hurts you. I can't respond to it. I've got to spend my energy with people like Raphael. And when I was a kid, mad about football, all I could think about was football. I slept with my football boots. And my dad drilled into me, shut your mouth and let your feet do the talking. And in this video, I've shown you that Raphael lets his feet do the talking.